Joining me now to talk about the latest unrest in Israel is Alan Dershowitz, Newsmax insider, former professor at Harvard Law School, and also the author of the new ebook, Terror Tunnels, The Case for Israel's Just War Against Hamas. Welcome back to America's Forum and to Newsmax TV, Professor Dershowitz.
Well, thank you so much. You know, what this shows is that Palestinians on the West Bank are now adopting the policies that have long been used by radical Hamas members, and that is using mosques and using human shields, in this case also using religious shields. Once a mosque is used as a weapons storage system, or once terrorists are allowed to hide in a mosque, that mosque becomes a legitimate military target. And obviously, Israel's not going to blow up the third or fourth holiest site in Islam. By the way, Jerusalem, has recently become a lot more holy now that Israel is there than it was before. Jerusalem is not mentioned in the Bible. It was never considered one of the holiest sites of Islam until relatively recently. Obviously, Mecca and Medina and places where the Prophet lived are regarded as far, far more central. And the Temple Mount is, of course, the holiest site in Judaism because the temple was there and the Western Wall is still there. But, for fighters, for terrorists to hide in mosques and then to say, oh, my God, why did the Israeli soldiers enter a mosque? Well, of course they're going to enter a mosque. There was a story a few years ago. It had a happy ending, fortunately, where Israeli soldiers believed that a mosque had been loaded with weapons and booby-trapped, and they were sending in a dog, a sniffing dog, to determine whether there was any explosives. And one of the soldiers said he studied Islam in college, and dogs are unholy and they shouldn't enter mosques. And the soldiers themselves put their lives at risk. Fortunately, they were able to find the explosives in order to avoid desecrating a mosque. That's how seriously Israel takes mosques. Unfortunately, Palestinian terrorists don't take mosques seriously. They use them as weapons storage system. They use them as entrance points to tunnels, the terror tunnels that I wrote about in my book, and there are photographs of tunnels, terror tunnels, being dug in mosques. So, Islamic extremists can't have it both ways. They can't say on the one hand, this is our holy mosque, on the other hand, we're going to use it to attack and kill your civilians.
And also a story that illustrates why Israel has never really had a real serious, well, for the most part, a real serious partner for peace, especially right now. But I also wanted to ask you, Professor Dershowitz, about this vote, a symbolic vote nonetheless, but it took place in Parliament last night over in London. Yeah. Parliament voting to recognize statehood with a non-binding resolution for Palestine. I wanted to get your reaction.
Well, it's going to set back the peace process enormously. That and the stupid Syrian and illegal Syrian decision to recognize Palestine. Why? It sends a message to the Palestinian leadership. You don't have to negotiate with Israel. You don't have to make compromises. You don't have to establish peace with Israel. All you have to do is make a lot of noise, blow up some buses, and Sweden's going to recognize you, and Great Britain may recognize you. I mean, it is so counterproductive to peace. It makes peace so much less likely, because if the Palestinians are disincentivized from negotiating with the Israelis, there'll never be a two-state solution. The only way to have a two-state solution is for London and Stockholm to tell the Palestinians, look, you want to be recognized as a state? Negotiate with Israel. Make a deal. Why did you turn down the deal in 2000, 2001 when you were offered a state on 97% of the West Bank? Why did you turn down a deal in 2008? Now we're going to give you what you turned down. It's terrible.
Well, we got to go, Professor. We'll continue our discussion coming up in just a few moments. We're going to talk about Ebola right after this.